on.
Oh. And welcome to a special edition of Plug Talk Sports, specifically the football type of podcast for this one. I know we're still, of course, joined by founder of Plug Talk Sports, Danny Torres, myself, Brent Hernandez. We're still trying to figure out a name for it. I was trying to jump with Danny about brainstorm what name should we call it for this Dolphins. I guess we'll call it Plug Talk on the sidelines for now. Miami Dolphins sidelines.
That works.
That works. There we go. So we'll call sidelines with Plug Talk Sports. So this is going to be something that's going to be brand new. Basically every single after a Dolphins game, after every single NFL week, we'll be jumping on podcasts talking about NFL and things of that nature. But of course, we got to talk about Miami Dolphins. To go through the entire game itself, a 31-21 game against AFC East division rival, the Buffalo Bills. Early in this one, the Miami Dolphins. Going into this game, I mean, what was it, like double-digit underdogs?
Yeah.
Going into this one. Everyone was saying 63-10, 49-3. People were just, for good reason, obviously, not going for Miami. But then things changed quickly, though. First drive of the game, Tua Tagovailoa in the offense went down the field, giving Ollie Gordon his first ever NFL career TD. Dolphins leading at 7-0, and then they allow back-to-back touchdowns against Buffalo. Buffalo leading 14-7, and a drive before the end of the break. They go on to tie it 14-14 at halftime. Game starts wobbling a little bit. Offense isn't all there. The defense, which came into this game allowing 13 of 15 offensive drives to be successful against them, the defense actually showed out a bit. But the third quarter, I would have to say, leading into the fourth, something big changed midway. We're going to talk about that very specifically. But Zach Sealer, one of the highest paid Dolphin defensive players on this team, has not had the best start of the year and had one of the biggest momentum changes of this game on Thursday Night Football. On a fourth down punt, he runs straight into the punter, roughing the punter, gives Buffalo a first down. They answer back by getting a touchdown. And from that drive, it was a touchdown, punt, field goal. The Dolphins had a chance to really win, if not tie the game up late. Tua Tagovailoa going down the field, did not see the linebacker in zone. The guy jumps on a pass towards Waddle. And we're going to talk about that pass, especially very specific, because there's a lot of new angles now. Guys saying the ball was tipped. Others are saying that Tua will make that throw 10 out of 10 times. He said after the game to media. But nonetheless, Tua Tagovailoa on another clutch drive in back-to-back weeks, unfortunately could not get it done for the Dolphins. Again, Miami losing at 31-21. So, Danny, I want to ask you, though, before we even get into specifics of this game, what's your initial thoughts? What's your biggest takeaway from this game?
So I will say, like you said, and I think all of us, to be honest, we're going into this game thinking it was going to be a complete blowout by double digits. Even the broadcasters on Amazon were saying, wow, we really thought that there was going to be no chance for the Dolphins in this game. But from the very first drive, I mean, I think the Dolphins set the tone. I mean, I think they heard everybody, what they were saying about them. They know that they're 0-2. They know that they need a victory. They know the talk about Mike McDaniel, their coach, being on the hot seat. I think they had a lot in their minds, and they wanted to go out there and prove everybody wrong. And I was really surprised sitting on my couch here at home when I saw Tua and the offense march right down the field on the first drive and get a score on Buffalo. I was like, wow, well, okay, well, let's see how this goes moving forward in this game. And I think looking at the game, it was back and forth. I don't think either defense was stopping the offense. And mind you, this is an offense in the Buffalo Bills. It's number one in the NFL. So they're already hard to stop as it is. But for Buffalo's defense to be allowing Miami to go down almost every drive and get a score, that's almost head scratching. I think that they hung in there throughout the entire game. And obviously, like you said, Steelers' penalty was disastrous. Obviously, Tua's interception, we'll get into that a little later, but Tua's interception for me it's just you have a chance right there. You have a chance to go and to tie the game. And honestly, I mean, we can sit here and say, oh, well, who knows they would have scored. But I felt confident that Miami, with 30 yards to go into the end zone, I felt confident that, yes, that drive, they were moving the ball more slowly. They were converting on third downs, which, by the way, all night, they did a great job converting on third downs. They had managed to put themselves in a lot of third and short situations, but they had a very, very solid chance of tying that game. I mean, Prater for the Bills missed that field goal, which I think changed the whole momentum of the game, because if Buffalo would have gotten a touchdown there, or even if it would have made the field goal, in that moment, it literally felt like, all right, this is going to get ugly. Buffalo's going to run away with this game. But that missed field goal changed everything. And yes, we talk about Sealer. I know it's a big moment, but when Tua, you got the ball in your hands, you can't make that mistake. Yes, it was a great play by the defenseman for Buffalo, for the linebacker, but you have a chance to tie it. You have a chance to give your team a chance to fight, continue fighting in this game. Unfortunately, they lose it. But I have to give credit where credit's due. They came to this game. No one thought they had a chance, and they fought.
Yeah, exactly. And also to your point too, because when I talk about with Sealer, with that penalty, that missed field goal by Prater, that was a huge momentum change in the first half. And again, as I said before, opening up this podcast, Dolphins defense coming to today, not allowing 2 offensive drives out of 15s to have scores. Defensively, this team was atrocious against Indianapolis, against the Patriots. This might be the best defensive performance from the Miami Dolphins, at least so far early on in this season through week 3. But also to give you some numbers, though, this is a top 10 offense early in the NFL with the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen finished the game at 213 passing yards, 3 tutties on top of that. And James Cook, a South Florida native, 108 rushing yards. This is one of the best backs there is in the NFL from Dolphins defense. And, I mean, Danny, we talk about this through multiple of our podcasts on Monday, which, again, we do every single Monday at 10 p.m., that it is – you feel like no matter who they are playing, the defense will allow a touchdown per drive. The only way the Dolphins can win, it feels like, is like you have to score every single drive, it feels like. I mean, I don't know exactly what's going on defensively. I know they showed out a little bit more. Bradley Chubb has been probably the best guy out of the 4 rushers, 5 rushers that they got, if not our 9-2 defense, with how much we got on pass rushers on this defense with Anthony Weaver. But, I mean, do you feel more confident in the defense now after looking at this game? I know there's a lot of positives, but defensively, what do you see?
Look, it's very hard that you mentioned, though. You have to score almost every drive. I think for any team in the NFL, that's unrealistic. And to put your offense in that situation, I mean, your defense is not helping your offense in that situation where, we must score every single drive to stay alive in every single game that season. I don't know about you, but I'd be exhausted if I was the offense, having to have that mindset like, I need to score every drive because my defense is not going to help me. I agree with you. Chubb has been the best factor in this defense so far. Obviously, there's been injuries on both sides of the ball, but for defensively, man, I just don't know what to tell you. I don't know if, this is something I talked last night with Jonka. Jonka brought up this point. I thought about it. I really don't have an opinion on it, but he was more like, well, maybe Buffalo wasn't really taking this game that serious.
Oh.
And they looked kind of, lethargic and kind of just, taking it easy on Miami. But defensively, if you're going to ask me, no, I don't think it's better, because you still allowed Buffalo to go down the field in almost every drive and score. Again, yes, it is the number 1 offense in the league, but we saw that against the Colts and we saw that against the Patriots. You and I already established after what we've seen from the Colts that they're legit. We've established that.
Yeah.
But for the Patriots, who we're down many players in week 2. It's there. It's the problem is still there. I can't put my hand on what it is exactly, but if you're playing the Patriots, and again, they're being able to score so easily, no matter if it's Buffalo or whoever, I mean, it's just messed up. It's broken. The defense is broken.
It is broken. It is broken. On top of being broken, I mean, we're also going to talk about the secondary a little bit because within one series defensively, we saw back-to-back guys getting hurt. Jason Marshall Jr., he had to be taken out of the game, went to the blue tent for a lower body injury after shoving a guy out of bounds. Not tackling, but shoving a guy out of bounds. And then that was followed by Jack Jones, who, was with the Raiders, Packers, a guy that we signed basically a month before the season starts. He gets himself hurt, able to return the game, of course. The secondary obviously has been more of an issue than anything else because I thought those were kind of a fun stat I was looking through because they had basically a blocking tight end receive a touchdown for Buffalo. The Bills in that game specifically have more touchdowns to tight ends than the Dolphins do have receptions to tight ends throughout the entire first 3 weeks of the season. Crazy stat as it is, but maybe Jonnu Smith dodged a bullet. Was it going to be underused for those fantasy owners that have Connor and Julian Hill? I'm sorry. Hopefully those guys are going to be waived by later on next week. But this has been a team that I feel like defensively, though, and offensively has misused a lot of guys. And also, before even stray away from this defensive side of the ball talk, Bradley Chubb, he was talking to the media. I want to go through a few quotes with you. One of them being on the defensive performance. I feel like we're getting closer to where we want to be. I have no doubt we will turn around. And on top of that, he said, even though he's averaging basically a sack a game, Chubb, I don't want to just have a splash here and there. 3 sacks in 3 games is cool, but I need to be more dominant in the game. Danny, again, we talked about, I know we're beating this old drum here. Not a lot of domination. I don't really see a lot of dominant players defensively on this team. Kader Kohu got himself cooked up on a route in training camp to open up practice this year against Tyreek Hill. He's out for the year. Storm Duck, who a lot of people had high hopes on going into sophomore year, he is no longer, being active. And, we're not seeing much out of Ethan Bonner, obviously. We're not seeing much out of Jack Jones. We haven't seen a turnover forced, a fumble, an interception, anything like that. I'm curious because we always talk about blow it up. Should the Dolphins blow it up? Anthony Weaver and the Miami Dolphins defensively. I think a lot of people talk about McDaniel's head, Chris Greer's head. Vic Fangio would never have allowed this to happen. I think Anthony Weaver, hot take here, because a lot of guys going to reports love Anthony Weaver. He would be the first guy out compared to McDaniel, in my opinion. I think that if you look at this defensive performance through 3 weeks, and let's say, again, we're going to talk about the end of the podcast, the next game coming up. That's a little, teaser right there for the end of the podcast. But if you find yourself losing that game in the following week, Weaver has to be on that chopping block first. I mean, a lot of people in the staff, obviously, but Weaver's got to go at some point if he doesn't fix this stuff.
I'm laughing because I sent this to our group chat a couple days ago. I forgot who it was that put it out there that if Mike McDaniel was fired, the number one guy to take over as head coach was Anthony Weaver. And the first thing I thought of was you, Brandon. I thought, oh my God, Brandon is probably having some sort of stroke right now thinking about Anthony Weaver taking over. If this man can't run the defense, what makes you think he's going to run the entire team in general?
Exactly.
It makes no sense. It makes no sense. But I agree with you. Obviously, we'll get into the offensive side of things. I definitely think there was an improvement there. But for the defense and for Anthony Weaver, yeah, if someone's going to get fired before McDaniel, I feel like if they were to fire McDaniel, that would be at the end of the season. If anyone's going to get fired during the season or mid-season, I could definitely see it being Anthony Weaver.
Absolutely. And speaking of fired, I'm not saying they're going to cut this guy because they just paid him. Zach Sealer in this game, again, the highest paid player really on this Dolphins defense. 5 total tackles. Last game against New England, he had 2 tackles. And if you want the exact details about his contract as well, I got this actually from Sport Tracks, which has basically talked about guaranteed money, signing bonuses, things like that. Zach Sieler signed a 3-year, $64 million contract with the Dolphins, including 16 signing bonus, 43 mil guaranteed, with an average annual salary of 21 mil. And again, this is going to be also top of signing bonuses. There's some additional stuff. He's a Pro Bowler. At this rate, I don't see him being a Pro Bowl guy. If you want to really trade this guy, he's going to be for a 6th-round pick in some God knows what New York Giants type of system. Like, there's no other way for me to say it, because I understand it's early in the year, but Wilkins, Van Ginkel, Bradley Chubb, Phillips, in the last 3 years from the Miami Dolphins, Zach Sieler, as Blake comes in, perfect timing.
Yeah.
Blake the intern.
He was very big on Sieler last night.
Big on Sieler. Very big on Sieler.
I'm not a Zach Sieler guy. Far from him.
But yes, so as I was mentioning, though, so again, Sieler getting paid during the offseason, $64 million 3-year contract, over $40 million of that guarantee. Is it too early to jump ship, or can we guarantee now that it was a mistake by Chris Grier to sign the man at 92? Blake, I know you just got in, but I want to ask you, you think Sieler overpaid already?
Yeah, no, it's a Chris Grier mistake. I said it. You can go on the Miami Dolphins post when they said we have signed Chris Grier. You can go in the comments and find me in the comments having an argument with someone about how Zach Sieler didn't deserve $20 million. I'm being so serious. Zach Sieler was so effective, and why Dolphin fans fell in love with him is because Christian Wilkins was next to him, and they did completely opposite things. Christian Wilkins was your run stopper. He was the man that clogged the lane. And so Zach Sieler got to be a one-on-one pass rusher every single down, and he's good at that. He's a good one-on-one pass rusher every single down. The issue is you pay him $20 million. All right, your job's not to be a one-on-one pass rusher. You need to take 2 guys, and you need to stop the run. That's your job that's your job as an interior D lineman that's getting paid. And then the other issue is you draft. We'll get into the whole. You draft a defensive tackle in the first round. He didn't even play 50% of the defensive snaps.
Yeah.
But Zach Sieler getting paid, over $20 million a year, and I forgot exactly what the cap hit is, what it comes around to, but that's a big cap hit to put on a D line that his one job is to rush the passer then, and he's not doing it that well because we're not making time for it to happen. And so if he's not rushing the passer that well, then you need to stop the run. So you're paying $20 million for a guy's not good at stopping the run to try and stop the run for you, and it's not working. So it's an overpay.
Brandon, have you ever gotten, for both of you guys, you ever gotten that feeling of wanting to smash your TV? Because last night, and I'm not even a Dolphins fan. Obviously, you guys know I'm a Cowboys fan, but obviously I watch the Dolphins because they're here in Miami. We cover them. I'm sitting at my couch, and when I see Sieler run into the punter, I wanted to break my TV. I'm like, what are you doing? You're getting the ball back with the game tied. What are you doing? And it's just, I was so frustrated because that is such a rookie, boneheaded mistake. And how you guys mentioned, you're getting paid so much money, you would think that you would know better. But no, I agree with you, Blake, even though we had a disagreement of what cost you the game ultimately. But this was a huge, huge mistake, and it should not have happened.
Exactly.
Yeah. Brandon, you want to go first on it?
Yeah, so again, I was mentioning before as we open up this show, because I did talk about that game-changing penalty that basically happened there in that third quarter. Following that, Buffalo goes down for a touchdown, punt, field goal. Dolphins unable to even answer back. Again, 31-21 outcome for the Bills on top. But on top of this, before we even move on to the next thing, which of course would be the offensive side of the ball, defensively, and because Blake, as you kind of joined a little bit late, but we were talking about Anthony Weaver's position on this team. How does it look like after 3 weeks of basically a defensive, outcome of giving up 30 points per game at this point? And then on top of that, corners are getting hurt back-to-back on drives. We got guys obviously not showing up in some bunches. I mean, also the Kenneth part 2 of the pass rushers, the only names we've heard so far has been Chop Robinson and Bradley Chubb defensively. The performance in this pass rush, which was so highly touted as potentially one of the best in our division, it just hasn't shown much. Now, mind you, though, a few sacks here and there, though, especially against the Bills. I thought Josh Allen was going to run right through down our throats. Josh Allen actually had only 25 yards rushing, which, a lot for a quarterback, but it's Josh Allen. He should have had
most of the team on that 119-yard run, too.
Exactly. And again, another point I want to make, too. A lot of second and forevers. Yeah. And they still got a first down, still found a way to make it happen. So I think defensively, this team, it's a little bit shook. I like where the defense is moving forward. And as before we said with Bradley Chubb's quote, they're going to turn around at some point. The question is when. And speaking of turning things around, the Tyreek Hill showcase going to the offensive side of the ball. 4 of his first receptions in this game were on third down. Yep. And all 4 of them were conversions to get a first down. This was a real comeback game for Tyreek Hill. I think he's slowly getting back to, this is the go-to guy for this offense besides Devon Achane. Receiving, he led the team 49 yards off of 5 receptions, the longest 19. A touchdown on top of that. Jalen Waddle right behind him with the touchdown. His first ever reception in this game was a touchdown in the end zone right before the half. Or mind you, right before the first half. So I like where this team, receiving-wise, is pushing itself. Again, we talked about the tight end scenario where, the Bills had more touchdowns for tight ends in this one game for the Dolphins tight ends receptions for the last 3 weeks. But, Danny, I want to ask you first, though. You think Tyreek Hill is slowly getting back? Because you talk about a lot of the Tua-Hill connection and kind of the disagreements throughout this entire offseason. Do you think that it's showcasing a little bit more that these guys are back?
2 things. We all know that Tyreek Hill, the Cheetah, is, if not top 5 wide receiver in this entire league. No matter what he's got going on, Tyreek is going to be Tyreek. Obviously, we know this offseason, like we talked about, there were some issues there between him and Tua. But at the end of the day, when you get on the field, football is football, and you're going to figure it out. This was a really good showing for Tyreek. I think that flashes of him being back. I don't think necessarily he was gone or he lost it or anything. I think that there were some struggles with Tua and passing the football the first 2 weeks. But this Tyreek Hill helped this team immensely yesterday, as well as Jalen Waddle. I have to give credit to Waddle. Got in the end zone as well, had some big catches. But for Tyreek himself, yes, I do think that he helped his team immensely. It looked like the connection was back. Hopefully that carries into next week. And my second point is, Brandon, you and I know as commentators that it's not good to get into people's personal lives.
Yes, I was about to jump into that. Yeah.
I think that we've probably had situations, Brandon, in our commentary career where you could say something to the effect of, off-field problems or off-court problems have been kind of a distraction, and you leave it at that. Yeah. But Amazon completely took a whole segment to focus the camera on. He wasn't even on the field. He was on the sideline to go through his whole resume of off-field issues throughout the years and naming every one of those issues. It felt a little targeted. And if I'm Tyreek Hill, from what I've been hearing from people online and sources, he might lawyer up and go after this Amazon broadcast.
Yeah, you never know, man. I mean, again, too, it felt like the NBA draft ESPN production. That's how that felt like, with Al Michaels being like, oh, he's doing some off-field stuff, his wife and domestic issues. But what the hell? You know what I mean? I mean, Tyreek wants to get traded. I mean, hell, he might not even want to be on TV anymore, But Blake, same question to you, though, with Tyreek Hill slowly getting back to it. You think the connection's there now? You think this is now the go-to guy? You think this is like Hill's back to a little primetime Hill? Because we saw that a little bit on Thursday.
Yeah. No, I think a big teller was on that. I think it was like a 3rd and 8 pretty early in the – it was in the second quarter when we made that 16-play drive
Yeah.
We had 3rd and 8, and he threw a 6-yard crosser, and Tyreek ran backwards a yard and then turned upfield, got the first and some more after it. That kind of showed me Tyreek still is playing football. It's not he's quitting on the team because he doesn't want it. It's showing me that he's playing football still. I think that's a big deal for the Dolphins. Do I think this returns him as the number one guy? Yeah. I don't think it was ever not the number one guy. I think the bigger thing I took from this is Mike McDaniel trusts Jalen Waddle so much in big moments.
Yep.
That's his guy. That's who he wants to have the ball on 3rd and 4, 4th and 4s, right? He trusts him to figure it out. Now, that could have been a matchup thing. You have an aging Tre'Davious White taking a man on man with a 2-yard cushion. Like, he's getting a free release. Of course, he's going to be Tre'Davious White underneath. But yeah, I think what captured me mostly with the Tyreek Hill thing that Amazon did was they were going back to the college accusations that he took the issues for in 2015.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, wow, they're going all the way. That's a decade ago now. Like, that's a long time. No one talks about Jamal Lewis. Like, no one's talking about that a decade after. Yeah, I bet you guys didn't know I knew all about Jamal Lewis. That's my guy right there. Big Ravens guy, by the way, I am. No, but I think we just saw basically this offense, the rhythm starting to come back with a lot of people.
Yep.
Now, there's a lot of issues still in this offense. The O-line I saw on Twitter was getting praised. I was watching. Tua on throws under 2.5 seconds was sensational. He was awesome, just like he always is. He did great in that area of the game. The moment it went over 2.5 seconds, he got pressured on 60% of snaps. That's an issue. If he's getting pressured on over 60% of the snaps, now in the total of the game, it's about 30 because he had so many 2.5 seconds. But I'll be honest, one thing I saw that you guys brought up last week that I didn't agree with, but I have to take it back a bit. Patrick Paul played a good game at left tackle.
Yep.
He was the one I looked at and I go, he played really good. Jonas Savai, the left guard, he's still a rookie. Of course, he's the lowest graded player on Pro Football Focus through 2 weeks. But, a lot of his mistakes are he's kind of it's a little too fast for him right now. Like, you can visibly see the guys are going a little too fast for his eyes. But I think the offense is starting to find it. I am worried about the defense giving up 32.5 points a game through 3 weeks. And even if you take away that field goal, this defense would still be the worst defense in football with last year's stats through a whole season. And that's very worrisome. Anthony Weaver probably doesn't make it through the year.
Yep.
Which I feel bad for him because I don't think it's his fault. Am I part of the Chris Greer get out bandwagon? Yeah, I have been for about 2 years. And I think now, as Dolphins fans, we're starting to see the repercussions of making bad signings and letting the wrong people go 2 years ago. And it's really hurting us now on the back end because you're seeing the issues in leadership is one. You're seeing the issues in just the players that you're putting on the field. Like, I have a question. You drafted Cam Smith, I think 3 years ago now. The whole thing for Cam Smith coming out of Georgia was he can cover, he just can't tackle. Okay. Well, if you're down to your 6th and 7th corners, Ethan Bonner was getting play time yesterday, which I've seen him in practice. He's not bad, but where's Cam Smith? He was a fourth round pick. He's a great athlete. I'm high on Cam Smith, so it's a bit different. But where is he? Instead, I have Ethan Bonner having to go on the outside and play one-on-one press coverage against a athletic wide receiver. I don't know, but I'm going on a tangent now.
No, but that is true. That is true. And again, I do want to say though for Cam Smith, because I do remember Gamecock. Can't forget about that Beamer ball. He comes out of South Carolina, super good in the SEC. Injuries obviously have plagued him a little bit, especially throughout training camps. He never able to start a season off right. So I guess it's like that slow, gradual, do we trust this guy without seeing real reps in the regular season? But yeah, you got Ethan Bonner out there. What the hell are you going to lose with Cam Smith out there playing corner? So I definitely see that point, though. I definitely do see that point. But Danny, I don't know if you want to add on to that. I think Blake might have froze on us.
Yeah, I think he might have froze.
Yep.
No, I don't have anything to add to that. I mean, again, just in total, I think that the offense progressed and improved a lot more than what we saw from the defense. I think the defense is the same, but for the offense, I mean, they got a lot better, and it'll be. I want to see how they do next week against the Jets. I mean, I know. Just joking with you guys last night, I said Jets are going to win and Dolphins are going to be 0-4, but I do think that the Dolphins, if they play this way, I think the Dolphins have a good chance. I think they have a good chance against the Jets and to pick
there
up.
he goes. He's back.
Yeah, sorry guys. I didn't do anything. It just shut out. I'm sorry.
Oh.
That's Chris Greer, man. Chris Greer is hearing everything you're saying.
Yeah, it's really it's the federal government coming for me because Chris Greer is something in the federal government. That's why he hasn't been fired. That has to be it.
Stephen Ross has a way of tacking in on everyone's Wi-Fi in South
I saw him with
Florida.
binoculars last night. They made sure to show that on the screen. Stephen Ross with his binoculars looking at Tua like this.
Yeah, and how many times do we even get? You know what I think is crazy though? Whenever a coach is really on the hot seat, when the owner is like on the visiting sideline,
Yep.
and the TV zooms in on him, that's when you really know a guy's on the hot seat. When
And you got the binoculars
with the
just looking at Mike
binoculars.
McDaniel.
Yeah.
You know the one thing I did like that I saw Mike McDaniel do in the press conference after was he went into it and McDaniel's players coach, Mr. Nice Guy, he blamed his quarterback. He said he said Tua should look back and made that read. Me and Daniel, we had a conversation about that.
Yep.
I was talking to my buddy too. I was like, trust me, I wish Tua did the double take and looked at that guy, but he was looking off the nickel. Like, that's just a freak thing. He thought Waddle was open. Great play by the linebacker. But when I saw him blame the quarterback, I said, he's either going to lose a job because of it or he just kept it for another couple games because of it. Because I think that, me personally as a fan, I like hearing that he was blaming his quarterback.
Yeah, that was big.
I blame the quarterback. I 100% blame the quarterback. I know we had this discussion. Yes, do I think the Sealer penalty? I admit it. The Sealer penalty was disastrous. Do I think it cost them the game? No, because you're still down one score. You got 3 minutes left on the clock, if not a little less. You're driving down the field. Brandon, I told you at the beginning of this podcast that, yes, slowly they were converting on third downs, but they were still doing it, and they were about 27 yards away from getting into the end zone. Now, we could sit here and say, oh, well, would have they gotten into the end zone? We don't know. But I think they had a very good chance, the way that this game, the way the night had been going, and a very good chance of doing it. And they would have tied the game if they would have gotten into the end zone. For Tua, listen, yes, I know snaps the football and he's going quick read right to that route.
Yeah.
As a quarterback, you can't tell me that you're not going to survey the field and see what's coming. It's a great play by the linebacker. I agree.
Yes.
But you're going to tell me you're not going to survey the field. You're just going to quick fire without knowing what's there. I mean, come on. I mean, I think for me, that's kind of ridiculous. You should be a quarterback in the NFL if you're just firing blindly.
Yeah. But I do want to jump into that though, because again, that was great job from like transition to the next thing, because this is pretty big though. Obviously, the Tua interception, I think this is a big game changer, obviously, because as Danny said, you either tie the game up, or if McDaniel's like, hey, we're not as good as this Buffalo Bills team, let's go for two and really get a lead and win this game. But into a deep dive of this though, because there's 3 videos that I've been circulating around right now on, of course, Dolphins Twitter at Dolphins X and different things. But of course, you can see most of our stuff on Plug Talk Sports on social media, on X as well, and Instagram and different things. There was one video that showed from the view of the secondary that Tua's ball was slightly tipped from a pass rusher who was able to tip the ball away going left and went to right towards more of the linebacker side instead of Waddle, who was kind of trying to cradle on his curl route. And then the other view, which of course is the main national broadcast that for prime time and CBS 4 had, the pass where the guy jumps on it. The guy that was supposed to be assigned for Waddle, I guess, in their zone, he curled and the defender, dropped. So Waddle, for a moment, I guess, before Tua clocked him, was open. Linebacker obviously gets out of his zone, jumps onto the route, interception right there and then. And, there was also another one where, like, Tyreek kind of, like, crossed inside. He was open for a millisecond. Maybe you go another route, maybe make a different read from Tua. But I personally think he was just trying to make a play. I think when you're down in Buffalo, or up in Buffalo, you're trying to get this game-winning drive. It doesn't go your way. And similar to what we were frustrated watching with the New England game, where Tua just rolls out, doesn't even throw the ball for a chance on a third or second and long on a game-winning drive potentially. That's why a lot of people are frustrated in New England. He does the opposite here in Buffalo and tries to force it. And this is what he had to say about that game-sealing interception. I thought I was in rhythm, in timing of the play. I think that was a really good play by the defender, going on basically to say that 10 out of 10 times he will probably do that stuff. He will probably go ahead and make that type of throw. So I know you guys talked about it a little bit. Is it Tua's fault? Is it not Tua's fault, the interception? I think there's a mix. I really do believe there's a mix in that. When you have, obviously, you're trying to make a play. I get it. Go and do it. I want to see my quarterback be dangerous and live for the moment instead of just throw it out of bounds and just say, oh, we got him the next down. We got him the next down. And the momentum clocks. It stops. But on the other hand, maybe you go ahead and give out a hospital ball to Devon Achane again. Maybe you go out of your way to send one of your guys to the blue tent for another play. And speaking of which, I feel bad for Devon Achane, though, because they were killing him, as per usual, on that behind line of scrimmage passes for hospital balls. But overall, for Tua's game itself, though, throughout the first 3 quarters, he looked pretty damn,
It was
phenomenal.
one of the best games I've seen him play for us.
One of the best games.
I thought he played great.
Same.
Absolutely.
I thought he played great.
146 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, of course, the one interception, 22 of 34 compared to completions to attempts. Guys, from your thoughts here, because, of course, you jumped on for the interception, but the game overall for Tua, though. I know, Blake, we're going to go with you first. You talk about the line, very young O-line coming into Buffalo here. You even got a rookie, a true rookie, coming onto this roster to try to defend. Tua Tagovailoa running the ball a lot, sliding, not going head first into guys. I'm curious if you're
It was so. I think this was one of Tua's. The stats don't say it, but it's one of those games where if you watch it, you know it's different from what the stats say. Tua looked good almost the entire game.
Yeah,
he had the willingness to move, but move with authority behind it. Not just move so he didn't get killed, move to make it happen. Which I don't think we've seen that. I think we've seen him just try to get out of the way so far this year. And today, like, what really was telling me, they brought that corner blitz, the one he rolled out and threw to Tyreek. They brought that corner blitz. And, I mean, shit, I would have thought he was Lamar Jackson. You saw the way he turned out of the pocket?
jumped in.
But,
oh, my goodness. Yeah.
No, I really thought Tua was really, there was people in his face for a lot of those. You see the replay, as a quarterback in the NFL, there's people in your face, but Tua's not the biggest guy, and he's having to create his open gap a lot like Drew Brees used to. Drew Brees, you'd see it'd be shuffle left to shuffle right to create that like half a yard gap for him to throw through. That's what I think Tua's lost that. I think it's that third year when we first started jumping everywhere. The O-line was also a bit better that third year. You were able to see we're able to open the passing lane a bit. We don't have that much this year, but I think Tua, in general, this is the most comfortable he's looked in the game, in the system. The only issue is if this is the most comfortable he's looked, he's just not your guy, because I said it last night in the group chat to Daniel. If this is Tua playing one of his best performances, this was a pretty good game by Josh Allen. It wasn't a great game by Josh Allen. And you could tell who the better quarterback was. And that's an issue. Like, it was just a pretty good Josh Allen game, and he was, by my eye test, by far the better quarterback in the game. Yeah, so, we'll I don't know if I missed the Tua part or if that's or more of it's coming, but I thought Tua through 3 quarters gave me an A- game, and then that interception brings it down. And the issue is Josh Allen gave you a B or B- game, and he's looked just as good as Tua, if not better than him still.
Yeah, and even Josh Allen, a C+ day, will give you 3 touchdowns. But Danny, I don't know if you want to add in more on this Tua conversation.
I think that Tua honestly looked the best that he has looked since 2023. Since that big 2023 season, I think this is the best that he looked, the most comfortable that he has looked. Obviously, season's young, 3 games in. This is the best that he's looked in this season. Obviously, I think there's a lot going on there mentally. I mean, he's been criticized so much throughout the last 2 years, and being told that he should retire and that he doesn't have it anymore. I think this is the best that he looked through 2023. But unfortunately, that's going to be overshadowed by his interception. So the criticism is still going to be there, unfortunately.
That is true, though. There's always going to be criticism, especially with this Miami Dolphins team for this season. But speaking of this season, because going away from that Bills game again, 31-21 Dolphins losing, still winless throughout the year. Their next 5 games, 3 of their opponents in the next 5 games being the opponents of the Jets, the Panthers, the Chargers, the Browns, the Falcons. 3 of those opponents, like the Dolphins, have not won a game. So a very winnable schedule ahead. But let's focus specifically Monday Night Football here at Hard Rock Stadium on the 29th of September. Dolphins rivalry edition jerseys coming out. The beautiful, beautiful, beautiful black, orange, and blue jerseys. I love the jerseys. I can't wait to see them come out for that one. And that's going to be another situation where the Dolphins facing a division rival, winless, the Jets, 0-2 so far. Again, this being a Friday, not after a Monday on a Sunday NFL. But guys, I truly do believe that if McDaniel and the Miami Dolphins lose this game 0-4 after going against New York, someone will be gone.
Yeah.
Whether that be a trade, whether that be a firing, whether that be Stephen Ross dying in his chair, getting a heart attack, losing to New York on a rivalry weekend on national football, national TV. Someone will be gone if the Dolphins lose that Monday night game against Justin Fields and the Jets.
At the end of the day, it's the first must-win of the season.
It is. It is a must. First win of the season. Dolphins currently right now favorites by 2.5 points in this game.
Oh
So,
my God.
so Justin Fields in New York, underdog. But Blake, I'm curious on your thoughts on this one. What is there to look ahead for this game?
So it's the Dolphins' first must-win. The New England game wasn't a must-win. It was a must-perform well game. This, I think it was just, hey, if you please don't lose by 30. That was what this Bills game was, and they did it. I think this is the first, hey, you have to win this game or their jobs are gone. Because you look at that schedule upcoming, it's the Jets. I know the Chargers are on there. Who are the other 2 teams? Did you say them?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So again, being from Jets, Carolina Panthers, Chargers, the Browns, and the Falcons.
Yeah. So if you're Mike McDaniel, we don't really say any offensive coordinator because Mike McDaniel calls the plays. McDaniel and Anthony Weaver are the 2 coaches.
Yeah, Keelan Smith is just the side at this point.
Yeah. They have to go into this thinking we have to be 4-3 by the end of this stretch.
Mm-hmm.
Because the issue is you're paying too much of your roster to not be 4-3. And I think this Jets game, that's 3rd straight division game. You get extra rest for it. You have extra time to prepare. There's zero reason this isn't a win if you're Mike McDaniel. There can't be an excuse. If Tua goes and plays bad, then pull him. You, as the head coach, you have plenty of time to make a perfect game plan for this team because you know what the Jets defense is going to do.
Yeah,
it's going to be a soft cover 6 with Sauce Gardner playing a lot of man. That's what it's going to be. Then you have to figure out how to get someone open in it or figure out how to run the ball. And so, if they lose this game, even if they lose by a 70-yard field goal to win it, him or Anthony Weaver get fired. I don't think it's a question. I think if they lose, I think Tyreek gets traded.
Okay.
Just like that. The only reason he wouldn't get traded is if more stuff. If Stephen Ross starts saying like, "Oh, Tyreek should be arrested," but he doesn't say it. He puts it through someone else to say it. Maybe through Amazon. That might be the case. But no. But this is it's the first must win of the season, and if you lose a must win, being 0-3, I mean, jobs start going.
Mm-hmm.
I have to agree with the both of you. I think that which first of all, I got to give credit to the Jets because week 1 against the Steelers, they performed well.
Yep.
And unfortunately, they've had 2 tough games. They've had the Steelers and then they've had the Bills, which obviously the Dolphins performed even better against the Bills than the Jets did. The Jets only put up 10 points. But this is a must-win game. Like you said, this is a must-win game. You got to treat this as a playoff game almost. If the Dolphins do not win this game, I think either one of the 2 coaches is fired. And definitely, I agree with Blake. I think Tyreek is going to want out of there. He looks frustrated. Through the first 3 games of the season, he looks extremely frustrated. And I think that there's already been a lot of rumors about him rejoining Pat Mahomes in Kansas City. I think he's out of there if they lose this game. He's going to say, there's no shot for me to do anything in this system, in this city, in this team. I need to get out of here. I want to continue having the rest of my career being in a good place. So I definitely agree. I think Tyreek's gone if they lose this game. And for that stretch of games, I will say I don't think they beat the Chargers.
No, I don't think so, but I think they have to go and get everything they can. I'll say this, though. If they lose, a team I think that would probably throw a pick in for Tyreek, LA Rams.
Yep.
Yeah,
I think it'd be awesome there with them.
Yeah, and again, Matthew Stafford. I mean, who doesn't want to go with Matthew Stafford and win ball games over there in the NFC? And speaking of which, in the NFC, the Jets' upcoming game this Sunday against the Buccaneers in Tampa. Yeah. So, not saying an 0-3 start for New York. You never know, but hard schedule ahead of them. And speaking of which, because that Monday night game is going to be very much on Daniel's schedule, because right after the Dolphins, Cowboys against Jets. Right after the Dolphins. So it's a Plug Talk Sports road trip basically for New York. And again, just to end off this episode of again, what are we calling it again? Plug Talk on Sideline. Sideline. We'll call it Sideline. Miami Dolphins Plug Talk Sports. This will be a game for the Dolphins coming up. Again, this Buccaneers game. Everyone's going to be eyeing on. So if you're a Dolphin fan, unfortunately, watch the Jets this Sunday. That is your homework assignment. My homework assignment is to keep on watching film. And like all of us, our homework assignment is to be ready for our next Plug Talk Sports main podcast episode on Monday, 10 p.m. every single Monday. Of course, you can follow Daniel and Blake on our socials. And of course, you can find all of our stuff on Plug Talk Sports, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you guys again for coming in on Sideline with Plug Talk Sports. Every single week, we'll be out here talking Dolphins football and some NFL stuff. But stay tuned next Monday. We're talking a lot of things. Obviously, a little Heat news earlier today. That's just a teaser for Monday. So we'll talk to you guys on the next time.